Welcome to the Byte Pod, where we dive into the latest trends, challenges, and innovations in global trade compliance, risk management, and supply chain intelligence. My name is Ann Retho, and hosting with me today is Tarek Kara, Byte co-founder and CEO.
Hey everyone, great to be on. Super excited for this session.
In this episode, we are joined by Michelle Frenier, the founder of Evolution Trade Solutions, LLC. Michelle, do you want to say a quick hello?
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. I'm super excited to be here. We're going to be talking about some great little nuggets for those of you out there in trade compliance who are figuratively and actually pulling their hair out. I hope that this is going to be an awesome session. You're going to get a lot out of some notes to take and start your week out with some good stuff.
We are super excited to have Michelle here with us today. She brings many years of experience in global trade management. Before starting her own firm, she held key leadership roles in the private sector, where she had a special focus on customs and compliance. She has also contributed thought leadership to industry publications, often shares insights on trade challenges and compliance strategies, recently launched a new newsletter through LinkedIn that's been very informative. And Michelle in 2025 is scheduled to present at multiple industry conferences where she will discuss AI-driven trade compliance solutions. Her expertise is in process optimization and automation, and she continues to help shape the future of global trade compliance. Thank you so much for being here, Michelle.
Thanks for having me.
Before we jump in, I do want to take a brief moment to describe the Byte platform. Byte is a screening platform designed to streamline compliance and risk management by providing access to comprehensive data sets on high-risk entities, commodities, and trade compliance regulations. Utilizing advanced AI-driven insights, Byte enhances decision-making for businesses across various industries, from manufacturing to importers, exporters, law firms, and financial institutions. Here at Byte, we aim to turn compliance into a competitive edge, make sense of the chaos, and help the world trade better. With that, Michelle, if you want to just kick us off and give us a little bit of your background and how you kind of worked through your career and got to where you are now.
Yeah, sure. That's a long, strange path. I like to call myself the compliance unicorn because if you were to take a look at my resume, you'd be like, what is she even doing? Like, where has she been? Where hasn't she been? But I had started my career out in logistics. Very funny start to that. It's something to have a drink over and discuss, not so much for this platform, but essentially not where you would have expected. Just out of the blue, someone offered me a job. I said, what's this logistics stuff? And I took it right out of college. But then really got a chance to dive into customs brokerage being on the northern border. I'm based out of Vermont, so had no idea that this whole piece of trade compliance and customs was a thing for my region. I have an economics degree and I thought I was going to be writing grants for nonprofits. So surprise, not doing that in a different position. But yeah, so I worked for a customs broker for 8 years in various roles and then took a few different jobs across my experience with in-house customs brokerage, both on the import and export side, as well as with technology companies. So I was solutions consultant, as well as area VP of solutions consulting for a major platform we all know. And so those experiences really have shaped my ability to see so much more than just what my current role is. So if I am working with customers, I know they're back of the house. I know the questions their customs broker doesn't understand, which is why they can't provide that data because it doesn't exist or it's in somebody else's house. So those types of things help give me a sort of a unique view on things. And as well as in the software space, I mean, many people are just mystified by the trade compliance automation push. And rightfully so. I mean, we're a very technical group and we know that we offer things that computer systems just can't articulate in the same way that our experience can. So it's sort of a sweet balance. And I know we're going to talk about that today, but having had worked providers, software providers in-house, I hope that my insights will give folks kind of a at least the freedom to reach out to me and say hello and say, hey, oh, hey, I've got this question. Happy to connect with people in those spaces because my background is pretty unique.
Well, and yeah, it's interesting. We've had a couple of folks in the trade compliance space, and many of them just kind of fell into it, right after college. It seems like a bit of a trend.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. They should market that. Maybe it's going to be a new path for everyone.
True. Although I think it's become a very important. I can't tell you how many LinkedIn posts I've seen where it was like, 6 years ago, no one knew I existed. Now I'm in the C-suite. It's
Yes,
like,
they love it.
well, times have changed. So maybe people won't fall in. They'll kind of, really actively try to enter into it.
Yeah.
Great. Well, I know we heard yesterday on another event that we were on together, Michelle, just how much everything is changing right now, how much everything is in flux. In talking to our customers and listeners of this podcast, we've really found that a lot of companies have small trade compliance teams with limited resources, maybe only, one person half time. How do these teams typically function? What do you see are the biggest challenges that they face in managing global trade regulations effectively?
Yeah, so it's not just the small people that have the small teams. I used to work sales for a customs broker, and the most maddening thing for me was to assume I was walking into a giant company with all these resources, and oh, they're going to be able to give us all the data we want, and it's going to be such an amazing thing. And you walk in, and it's literally a manager and one operator trying to manage massive companies, like massive. I was in the New York, New Jersey area. I would walk in and I would just be in shock. I'm like, where's your team? And they're like, we're it. And I'm like, oh wow, that's insane. Okay, let's help you out. So just I think the first key thing is just don't get overwhelmed by the fact that you're small and don't have a team or you have a very small budget. It's more common than you would think. The other piece that I would like to say around managing this is you often think as a trade professional, how am I ever going to do this without tools? Because everyone's toting a huge, global trade platform and all of these things. Fun fact, I've never worked any place that's had the money to roll that out efficiently. I've never had the tool. So that's scrappiness, right? And very successful in transforming teams and process and getting things to work. So don't be discouraged if you can't have the fancy team. There's a few things you can do that are low touch and everyone can do. One of my favorites is deputizing honorary members of your team. Now, this might sound a little bit interesting, but what it really means is looking at all the different departments within your company and figuring out what do they do? What is their day to day and how does it connect to compliance? Because you can take those little pieces of information and help invest them in being your eyes and ears in each section of those sort of high risk areas. We're talking the engineering team, the marketing team, right? Customer service might have international responsibilities from time to time. Shipping platform, right? People that are out on the floor, do they even know what they're touching when they fill out certain things? So it's really important that if you have the ability to connect, that you do. In person is great, but I've done this completely virtually as well. So don't get scared off that, oh, I'm a work from home compliance person. How am I ever going to connect with people? On the platforms we're on today, everybody's got some way. We're in a time where you can make that check-in, a virtual coffee date with someone who works in another state, another country for that matter. I've led teams that were based in Europe. So like you have to get kind of in the middle and comfortable with making it normal to reach out and ask questions. So one, get those people on board with you. Two, understand what actually happens in practice. So this is a gigantic issue for trade compliance people because the first thing you do when you walk in, they hand you some kind of, here's our policies, this is what we do. I would say that 9 times out of 10, there is a lot of aspirational information in there. And aspiration doesn't get you into a space where you can effectively make daily decisions based on that. So while you have to have a trade compliance manual, it needs to be a living document and it should really reflect those different departments and each thing that they do and how it connects back to compliance. Another way to reach those people is through persona or role-based specific training. I hammer on this one because no one wants to listen to a 2-hour compliance training on nothing that ever touches them. They say, oh, thanks so much. That was lovely. Thank you for telling me. Well, they're never going to do anything or absorb any of it unless it connects back to their daily business. So That's super important. I've done even a Jeopardy game with the engineering team. They loved it. So if you can find a way to connect and reiterate the different steps that they need to look for along the way to support your team, that's really great. And a key point of that is as you train these folks up, your team of maybe 1 or 2 people has now come to be a team of 1 or 2 people per department. So you bring them in, whether they like it or not, and you unofficially make them part of your team. So fun fact on that. And just a little bit more on the trade compliance manuals. Policies are not always written. Customs will tell you, a good attorney will tell you, you don't have a policy. Oh, yes, you do. It doesn't have to be written to be a policy. So think about those things that are out on the periphery that are policies or procedures you do that may not be committed to text at this point. And really look at those and see how you can hone them in to make sure you're capturing what's done in practice across your trade compliance platform.
That's really great advice, and I hope people kind of can listen in and take away those kind of jewels, pearls of wisdom. I really do think you should trademark Michelle's Trade Compliance Jeopardy game. Like you could probably sell that for some money.
I'm gonna have to look into that right away. Thank you. You can't use it now. It's not co-author.
Yeah, and Michelle, you mentioned a little bit, at the beginning, tools, and you've never been somewhere that has the end all be all tool. But in general, technology has become absolutely essential in trade compliance. We've talked a lot about data on the podcast in the past. What else, or what do you think has driven this kind of necessary shift towards technology? And are there certain things that you think are making the biggest impact on the industry right now?
Yeah, so having come from the trade compliance software space and never having a cool tool, but also working with platforms that speak to brokers and forwarders, I saw firsthand how much of a competitive advantage data and compliance automation in the provider space had on whether companies signed up. When they issue RFPs, they're looking for heavy hitters. They're looking for people who are following trend, who are looking for those automation things, and who are essentially working harder, like at getting your stuff into their system faster and more streamlined. The biggest key is reducing price. And if a company is not automating the solution they're selling you, you're paying too much. So you should pay attention to that. So I think that's where it first started for me, where I started seeing companies getting on board with trade automation was out of necessity of compliance and necessity of competition and making sure to land those customers who had a higher expectation. So that's first. And then obviously in the space of importer exporter and having worked on that side of the fence, we're a reluctant crew, right? We're the smart kids. We know better than any computer system. But really what it is in terms of a in-house program, you are a department now that is subject to the same return on investment, the same accountability as any other department in the entire company. And they're going to be expecting for you to do all these wonderful things, but you're not a revenue center. In fact, you're a cost center or a cost avoidance risk center. And your impact to the business isn't always going to be known. So that is an area that's very uncomfortable. Companies need to embrace a visibility platform, making sure that they are looking for how does the trade team upskill themselves to learn these new technologies, to start reporting into the company in the same manner in which all other departments do, just a little differently. And it's going to be through reduction of risk. It's going to be losing that, issue that's come across your desk. You've got this issue and you're like, oh my gosh, we could be paying $500,000 and back duties and penalties for missing something unless we can do this desk review and prove to customs or the government agencies that we had our house in order and we're all set. So those times when you can do that, you can monetize that. You can tell your company, hey, I avoided this impact to the company because we put these tools in place. So I think getting sign-on from for a budget around trade compliance and automation, it's a hard thing to do. And what that trade technology might look like, for each company is going to be completely different. You're going to be wanting to look at what you're actually solving, what kind of data forward things can you do, and what is your current fit of your systems. Like, I think that's very underlooked at, is what do you have now? What's your ERP? Does it work? Do people use it? Is there a lot of workarounds? Those things all make a huge difference when you're trying to contemplate some new trade automation or technique or process or platform, whatever you want to call it. If you don't know the health of your current systems and how adaptable they can be to accepting an automation tool, you may never be able to get it off the ground. So that's important. Also, just knowing that, is this already automated or not automated for a reason? I think that's a big one. You come in as a trade compliance expert and you think that you can just go, oh, I know everything, do this, do that. There might be a very good reason why that's not automated. And you should be asking those questions. And so whether you are or are not automated right now is one of the key things, along with who is the staff within the company that could maybe help deploy a software system or a new tool. Can you get that resource, or are they busy doing other things? So why I mention all these things and a little disjointed here, I'm sorry, but one thing that happens is people fall trap to signing on with a nice new program, fancy sales, right? Everyone, oh, it's going to save my whole day. But they never did the scope work to see if it would actually work. Never asked the right people within the company whether there was some sort of speed bump or gate that was going to prevent it from working. And then they fall into never using the tool they bought, like paying a subscription fee every month and never opening the tool. I see this more than you could ever imagine. And it's a trend I want to see stop. So hopefully that's helpful.
Yes, super helpful. And a term I sometimes use is, what's the return on investment on your software tool, and trying to gauge that, what are the KPIs or OKRs that kind of help you understand if you're getting what you need. And, a lot of the time people don't have those defined. It's, well, I don't want to get fined, which is, yes, obviously that is one of them, but what else? What are the automation aspects? What is it actually kind of saving you? So yeah, super valid, especially at this time where there's a plethora of kind of tools and platforms out there.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and Michelle, again, you just mentioned data as well. So let's jump into that a little bit. As I said, we keep hearing data, 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 and it's at the core of effective trade compliance at the end of the day. From your side and who you've worked with, like how have you seen compliance teams leverage data to automate or streamline and reduce their risk?
Yeah, so we're going to have to talk about the elephant in the room, even though every single person is so sick of hearing about tariff. It has made our job so sexy. Everyone wants to be a trade compliance person. No, but all jokes aside, the tariff number, the country of origin, it's arguably some of the most important data that you have collected in your system that's accurate. It tells the story of your import and export across whatever rule, law, country that you're dealing with. Those two things are just absolute core. And we're seeing that the importance of having proper descriptions, even electronically, are incredible. That has never been something. That's a new thing for 24, 25, is you need to have a description digitally that can help bring forward the information that a company might need to communicate to a government, whether it's the US government or another, an export market for you. So that's huge. You're going to need those things. It's a living digital record, right? So you need a parts database. If your customs broker is not using a parts database for you that you provide, that's at the item level, you're missing out on huge opportunities to flex your data. A tool can't do anything for you if the person filing for you in your space doesn't collect the data in the way in which you need. It's a huge topic. People hate to have someone come move their stuff around. Why do we need to do it, Michelle? I hear we've been doing this for years. I mean, I think we should have that as a plaque for our offices when we do consulting for people. Why, Michelle? We've been doing this for years. I might even need some t-shirt and hats. We've been doing this for years. I think they would sell like hotcakes. So that's one thing to think about, is it does need to follow trend. It does need to be collected in a way that's useful. So value description, country of origin, electronic form. You have to have that visible or you're not going to have decision grade data. So a small analogy that I think will all resonate with is the reason that people clean their homes before their house cleaner comes. Everyone's like, why do you clean your house? Like, you pay somebody to do that. Okay, well, think of it this way. So you have a tidy, organized house plus a house cleaning service, that's going to equal a nice, sparkly, calm environment. You're going to get what you're wanting at the end. Now, think about a cluttered, messy space plus your cleaner. All you're going to get is a cleaner looking mess after you pay for a service. So I think that we can all see that it's the same with technology and data. If you have messy data, you're going to have fancy, messy data, and nobody wants that. So pick the right things, do the work ahead, deputize those folks that say we've always done it like this and show them what it can be. And choose right partners across the board that are willing to get on board. If your broker tells you they will not do this for you, it's a really good sign you might want an RFP. And there are people that can help you do that and choose ones that will work with you and keep you in the best position with the least amount of risk.
Yeah, and I think, some people, sometimes get overawed or overwhelmed by the data aspects. But I mean, it could be something as saying, start an Access database or, a CSV or spreadsheet with your part numbers and the descriptions and start somewhere, right? You don't have to have a SQL degree and, database or Oracle database to get it going. So yeah, no, definitely super important.
Yeah, and Michelle, I mean, you went through your background. You obviously have a ton of experience as a product owner and on the service side and the compliance side and all around. And as you're giving this advice, you've had to assess whether or not a tool is worth adopting before. When you've done that, what are the key factors you've considered? How can you tell if it's valuable? We talked about return on investment also. How do you assess all of that and then answer that, but then add on now with AI being involved? Like, how do you then measure that now that all of these AI tools are available?
Yeah, $1 million question, but well, hopefully it won't be $1 million question if you get the right. But in tech and space in general, it really comes down to giant amounts of money spent in either the right direction, middle of the road, or completely off the road. And it's too bad because you should employ people that can help you determine that for you as you go through, whether it's in-house, if you've got in-house expertise and people who know what they need, that's really huge. If you don't, there's more than enough fractional level people out in the ether that can help you with their specific area. Not every single person is going to be the all end for you to determine whether these tools are good. When I speak to people, if it's not my wheelhouse, I might know enough about it to lead them down, but I don't try to be everything to everyone when it comes to reviewing a platform. If it's in my space and I can answer it really well, I will. And if I feel like they're better served elsewhere on their own, whatever it might be, I'm going to be honest with them because any technology has to solve real problems. If it doesn't solve real problems, you aren't getting anywhere with it. You have to look at the challenges the company is trying to overcome. You need to have more impact on things that make inefficiencies. The more it impacts your company, the more you need to be looking at whether it should be automated. If it's a task that really has little lift, but the new tool you're looking at does that really well, what benefit is that to your company? It might do great things for people who that one little thing is a huge challenge for them, but if it's not for you, it may not be the right fit. And you have to really say, is it worth the money that you're getting out of it? When you're trying to look at the business in terms of money spent, I feel like that's where everybody goes. How much is it? How much is it? Well, how much needs to be normalized with what risk are we saving? And many compliance tools, specifically, I think of denied party screening, really can't put a number around that. If you mess up and you do the wrong thing with the wrong person, you are going to be down a road that you never thought you would be in. We've seen huge companies being levied mitigated risk, like mitigated fines that are gigantic. And it's all because of tech failure. They didn't realize that their tech solution that was screening missed the boat, or they never told it the right scope, which is probably more likely. They missed part of that communication, that what are we actually solving as part of it. So as much as I'd like to say, oh, just evaluate the tool, do you have the problem? Okay, good, we have the problem, check, check, check. It has to really be an impact, and it has to fit with what you've got going on. I also look for alignment, and I try to bring value with a tool to more functions within the company outside of trade compliance. This is huge for buy-in. Again, it comes down to money and budgets. I know we're sick of hearing about that. But if you think about a tool that can be embedded across your business and can help other teams achieve things that they need, and you get what you need, you're more likely to be able to keep that tool. It won't be cut in a later time. You're more likely to get the type of solution enhancements that you might want because it's going to touch more than one place. All really important factors in selecting a tool that can scale with your company, is appropriate for your industry, can provide you with really good resources or recommendations from customers of theirs that you can speak to. I was recently at a conference for a tech solution, and a lot of their customers were super vocal about what they liked and what they didn't like. Having that sort of ability to just say, here's access to people who use our tool, it makes a big difference, because there's a lot of selling the dreams and smoke and mirrors that happen in tech. And you don't want to be the person who thought they did a good job with their company of checking a resource, but you never actually spoke to someone who's had to, who knows where the bodies are buried. I mean, there always are some, but you have to be looking at that. And lastly, I would say that the more embedded a solution is, the more problems it solves for the business, the more likely I am to recommend that tool, because I want it to be truly worth the money, worth the ROI. And that's where we can think about things like AI. So today's AI is going to be the worst you've ever seen, because it's going to continue to get better. So if you're working with a company who's always following that trend or looking for ways to enhance everything you do and look at the right fit for an automation, AI has got a lot of different ways it does things. Not all of AI is fit for every solution, but if you've got companies that are dabbling in the different areas that support you as a compliance person, it has to enhance what you do. You are its teammate. If you are not doing anything at all to embed your knowledge into the process, your tool will be absolute junk. It will not do what you expect it to do, and you're going to get fancy, messy data, right? Even with AI, you can still get hallucinations and things that are going to lead you down the wrong path, because you're not taking the time to put your technical expertise in there. So if you don't have the technical expertise, that's the other thing. I don't know anything about this, Michelle. What do you mean? And I said, you know more than you think. You're not the tech expertise when you're in trade. Some people are, but most of the time you are the human in the loop. You are the record, the person who's going to bring forth the rules and check that the system works. So that's a very important synergy to have when you're looking at AI in trade compliance, because if a tool tells you you never have to do a thing, click here, it tells you everything, you should hit the brakes, because even the most low level task does require training and oversight so that the system can get better. If you allow it to do what it does, and let's say it's a hallucination and doesn't match your business, and you allow it to continue, it just got sort of a hierarchy within AI that allowed that answer to be a positive thing. You never said no to it. So it says, great, it's perfect. Can you imagine the systemic issues that fall from that? So I would say be super careful. Don't be afraid of it. If you don't have the expertise inside, get people that can be your exterior counsel or person to help evaluate a tool. And yeah, just make sure it's solving things for more than one department. You're going to be a lot more successful, and everyone's going to love you. You're going to be the new cool kid invited to all the lunches, hopefully.
Yeah, no, love that. Especially, the part where you said AI is the worst. It is, right now, I forget exactly what you said, but you're 100% right. I love that. I'm going to use that. I'm going to steal that. Yeah, I stole something else from another podcaster the other day, who was like, hey, you don't need to put AI stamp AI on it if it does the thing you say it does,
Yeah.
right? Which is, I think, another important factor that, yeah, there's always going to be tech. There was big data 10 years ago. There's AI now. Those things are going to come and go. Who knows what it'll be called in 5 years? But understanding what the actual function is and how much to let it overtake your human function, I think, is the line that many people need to figure out here.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I think the human in the loop part is super important, Michelle. Thanks for highlighting that. I think, a lot of times when we talk about AI, people get a little bit nervous. But we had, we've had this conversation before. You need the human to run the tool. It can't be just left to its own devices. So thanks for highlighting that for sure. You said something else too, but it has escaped me, so I'll leave that for now. But Tarek, did you have any additional questions that you had for Michelle today?
Yeah, Michelle, word on the street is you like cars. Tell us a little bit about your Motorhead, shall we say pastime?
How much time do you have? That's the problem. So I'm going to lean to the side. You can see the back of my car from a distance. But yeah, I am a 70s muscle car aficionado, or I don't have a big garage with a ton of them. I have one car and she's very special to me. She already has a pronoun, she has a name. I live in a cold environment where pack up time is mid-October, takeout time is mid-May. It's a super short season. But her name is Pearl. She is a 1972 Mustang Coupe. I picked her up out of southern Vermont, which is sort of crazy because of just the weather, and these cars don't usually last. This particular model, I very rarely see in the wild. It's the one that's rotting in the field. So I like to treat her very nice. A gentleman that I purchased it from was the mechanic to the original owner. I got her with 36,000 original miles. Like, just, she's a gem. She's all my things. So if you follow me on LinkedIn at all, you'll probably see from time to time little bits about her. But she makes me super happy. And I'm not happy about any kind of tariffs around derivative or things that affect the parts I need for my car. Just, I want to put that out there to the current administration. Don't mess with my day. I will be lying if I didn't say I've already purchased all of my spring tune-up stuff in anticipation that I want to get my old car parts in from where I need them without $1 million, and they're already delivering tomorrow. So I'm super happy about that. Yeah, I don't know. I could go on for days. She's fantastic and she makes me very happy.
Well, if I see you at a conference without your James Dean leather jacket and shades, looking like a 70s muscle car fan, I don't know, I may be a little bit disappointed, but
I
no,
left jacket on for today, and I was like, no, a little too edgy.
no, not at all.
Fair
Cool.
enough. Yeah, no, it's a real thing. It's my car, and I think another fun fact is my plate is not his, which is not a feminist comment. It just, anywhere I ever go, as long as it's your husband's car, and or when we go out, they'll be like, oh, talking to him, and he's just like over there. I don't know. I don't do anything with this car. So
Nice,
yeah.
nice. No, this has been really, really informative, and we're learning as well all the time, from SMEs and folks like you who've been there, done it in a successful way, and trying to build in, that knowledge into a software platform is hard. But this community, even in the last 2 days being on the ICPA webinar and listening to you, everyone's so willing to kind of provide information, and it's a great community to kind of learn from as well, and so we really appreciate your time and being on here with us.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Honestly, it's a joy to share because I know how many people are out there wondering what they're going to do, and I like to bring the confidence that you have all the tools you need. You really do. You just need to take a breath, see what's out there, look for the helpers, and there are plenty of them in trade compliance. So thanks for letting me speak about it.
Great. Thanks, Michelle. And as I said at the beginning, you're going to be at a few of the conferences this year. So for all of our listeners, look out for Michelle. I'm assuming the next one is ICPA.
It is. It is. I can't wait to have sun on my face. Again, northern kids, we're all like, yay, sunshine. So yeah, it's coming up so fast. I will be in Orlando and looking forward to connecting in person.
Great, thank you. And so that wraps up another episode of the Byte Pod. Feel free to visit our website, bytedata.io. As I said, look up Michelle's newsletter on LinkedIn. It's great. And we look forward to seeing you at upcoming conferences. Thanks, Michelle.
Thank you.
Bye.